Welcome to this video. We're going to focus on creating meaningful learning activities. The ideas I'll present in this video apply to all types of learning activities, online or otherwise. On the previous slide, I mentioned that we're focusing on meaningful learning activities. A meaningful learning activity provides students with an opportunity to gain and practice new knowledge and skills. In other words, a meaningful learning activity actually helps students learn. We've all been in at least one class where we were given an assignment that was just plain busy work or otherwise didn't relate to the topic of the class. I'm confident that your assignments certainly don't fit into this category, but for the next few minutes, I'd like to discuss what makes a learning activity meaningful. My hope is that you'll reflect on your existing learning activities and start thinking about learning activities you can include in your online classroom that include most or all of the attributes presented here. I think that you'll find that most, if not all, of these attributes are somewhat common sense ideas, but when they're combined with careful reflection, they're powerful for designing and developing learning activities that will help your students succeed. If a learning activity is what we call authentic, then it is considered meaningful. In this context, authentic means that the learning activity should reflect the types of experiences, problems, or challenges the student will face in real life. For example, if a student in the technical management program will someday have to complete a performance review of their staff for his or her job, the learning activity should be as similar to that real-life task as possible. It could perhaps involve them completing a scenario-based performance review. Meaningful learning activities should also be challenging. The learning activity should provide the right amount of difficulty to help the student grow to a new level of knowledge and ability. This is obviously especially important for graduate-level applied courses, like those taught at EP. Similarly, meaningful learning activities have to be rigorous. In rigorous learning activities, students are required to apply their understanding of newly learned concepts and skills in order to achieve a successful outcome. In other words, if a learning activity is rigorous, students will not be able to complete the activity without having learned new concepts and skills from you and the course materials first. Coherent. In graduate-level courses, it's common to have project-based activities that have a lot of moving parts, so to speak. Meaningful learning activities are coherent, which is especially important in large-scale, multi-part, or otherwise complicated learning activities. To be coherent, all parts of a learning activity should have a logical and consistent relationship and guide the student to achieve stated learning objectives. Another characteristic of meaningful learning activities is that they're engaging. The learning activity should pique the student's interest. If the students find the activity to be interesting, they will be motivated to actively participate. And there is a strong correlation between student motivation and student learning success. Students always want to know how they're doing in their coursework, which leads to the next attribute of meaningful learning activities: responsive. By this, we mean that a mechanism that provides frequent feedback is built into the learning activity to guide the student in the learning process. Meaningful learning activities should also focus on the learning needs and goals of individual students. If possible, activities should be tailored for a specific group of students. In other words, activities should be student-centered. And the last attribute I'll mention sort of goes along with the concept of alignment, and that is that meaningful learning activities should be valid. The valid learning activity guides the student to achieve the stated learning objectives. The purpose of the activity and its relationship to the stated learning objectives is explicitly stated. Now that you have the full picture of the attributes of a meaningful learning activity, it's clear how incorporating these characteristics into your learning activities will help you and your students succeed. So, as you develop your learning activities for your online course, ask yourself this question: is my learning activity authentic, challenging, rigorous, coherent, engaging, responsive, student-centered, and valid? This seems like a good time to remind you that you'll have an instructional designer helping you along the way to design and develop your learning activities. We're eager to brainstorm new and innovative and meaningful ways to help you teach your students. That's all for this presentation on meaningful learning activities. Thanks for watching.